Today's podcast is a part of a series about the members of a network that I am a part of called Women Execs on Boards. All of the women in this series have completed programs through the Harvard Business School to prepare them for corporate governance. I wanted to tell their stories because I'm so inspired by the women who are in this network. They are high-level, high-profile women, but when you look behind the scenes, you see that they have worked very hard to get to where they are. They've been through so many different trials, traumas, and they've just kept getting back up and climbing and working hard to get to the top. And the really amazing thing is that they're leaving the ladder down and reaching back down in the organizations to pull up other women and men into leadership positions. And so I can't wait for you to hear their story. I hope you enjoy this podcast series. Hello, welcome to Real Life, Real Leaders. Today we have a special guest, Alejandra Veltmann, and she goes by Allie. And Allie is the founder and CEO of ESG Link. She also has been a corporate executive, and she is currently a board member on several nonprofit boards. Welcome to the program, Allie.
Thanks, Bonnie. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm anxious to tell your story. So we, for those listening or reading, we're in the same network. So we're in a network for women on boards from a group of women who went through a program at Harvard. And so we've been trying to work to advance the state of women in corporate governance together in this network and get on boards ourselves. So this is how we met. And I asked Allie if she would come and share a little bit of her journey with us. So maybe just tell us, where are you from? And you're bilingual, or you're at least bilingual, right?
Yes.
Bicultural, bilingual. So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I grew up in Mexico City. I was there until I was 18 years old. And then I had the opportunity to move to a town called Juarez across the border from El Paso, Texas. And I went to college. I would actually tell stories this to my children. I'd go across the border every day to go to college. Lived in Mexico and went to college in Texas. So anyway, so that's my background, and that's how I became bilingual. And so my first job was in public accounting. I have an accounting degree, and I went to work for Arthur Andersen, then KPMG. And then moved to Houston back in 95. So I've been in Houston for about 25 years, a little over 25 years now. And so that's sort of my upbringing. And one of the things that I really liked about public accounting was just the public service being with clients. Right. And so after being in industry here in Houston, my latest company got acquired, and that's when I decided to start serving on boards and became aware of sustainability. That's how I started my company.
Okay. So what caused you to choose accounting, as your career choice?
I laugh because, my mom was an accountant, and so I always was familiar with it, but I laugh because when I was in college, my first job, I was actually on a children's television show in Mexico. And wow. And it was really easy for me to be on camera, but it was so easy that I just needed to be challenged. And so I'm like, I need something that is, requires a little bit more brain power, and I like math and I like people. And so I somehow in school, I just liked the subject and became a CPA. So my husband makes fun of me because he says, so you need to be the spokesperson for the AICPA. Says like, I was on TV, but I decided to be a CPA.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So you were like a child star, right? In Mexico.
I was.
That is so cool. I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
So very cool. Well, you obviously, landed some great jobs after you left the university. And mm-hmm. So tell us a little about the career path. Like, what levels did you reach at each one and what caused you to change jobs?
So I kind of I've always followed my love for my family. And so when, so like I said, my first job was at Arthur Andersen in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And my first husband got a job in Houston. And so we moved. And so I followed him. And I thought, being in public accounting, I could just get any job.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to KPMG when I moved to Houston, because KPMG at the time had it was called the NAFTA Center. And I loved working internationally. And I had kind of lost that a little bit when I was in Albuquerque. So I started really working with international clients with KPMG, and that was just fascinating to me. I got to travel in several parts of the world, and one of the things I was so lucky and I'm so thankful. My mom, every time I went overseas, she'd come home and she'd take care of my kids.
Wow.
And so she was was instrumental for me. So anyway, when after KPMG, when my children were young, I decided to move and do something that I didn't have to work so many hours. And so I did I became CFO for small companies, and that was very rewarding. And so that was the reason why I changed that. I changed to doing something different because, like I said, my family was always first. But it didn't take long before I decided to go back full time again. When my children were probably 7 or 8 years old.
Okay, and is that when you went for the CFO job?
Actually, it was a controller position, and then it was a CAO job, accounting officer.
Chief administrative. Oh, chief accounting officer. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Well, that's so cool. And then your business today. Tell us about your business now.
Well, so I love what I do now. So 2 years ago, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, it's a mouthful, the SASB, issued standards of sustainability. That was back when ESG which is environmental, social, and governance issues, wasn't as popular, I guess, as it is today. And so when I learned about it, this was when I went back to school. I went to Harvard Business School, and I completed the advanced management program. And while I was there, that's when I learned about it. And so I immediately saw the connection between, the SEC reporting experience that I had from the financial side and sustainability, right? Because I really wanted to make a difference. I really wanted to do something different. And so I'm like, let's just do something completely different and do like this ESG reporting. Little did I know that there's, things are converging anyway. But at the time, like I said, which was 2 years ago, that's when I saw really the benefit. When I was at Harvard, I learned about the sustainability reporting. And I was really passionate because I read a book, and the name of the book is, and that was just published, but Professor Rebecca Henderson at Harvard Business School, actually we had her as one of our speakers, and her new book, Reimagining Capitalism in a World of Fire. And she taught us this class, and that's when I learned about it. And it was really funny, but one of her chapters says that accountants hold the key to saving the world. And I was just like, I wonder what that is. Well, the issue there was that accountants are not accounting for all the costs to society of doing business. So basically, all the environmental issues, a lot of the social issues are causing real economic impact in the world, and it's not being accounted for. And so one of the theses in her book is about the accounting profession, and the standards have to evolve. And so anyway, so that's how my thought process really started.
What was the name of the book again?
The name of the book is Reimagine Capitalism in a World of Fire.
Wow.
And it's by Professor Rebecca Henderson. And she teaches a whole sustainability curriculum at Harvard Business School now.
Okay. I'm going to have to get that book. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then you decided to start your business, and is that what you're doing with the business? Is you're trying to add that piece in?
No, actually, there's a whole, there's so many branches now, and I'm just sort of waiting because even they're working together with the big four accounting firms in this project. It's probably it's going to take years. So, but my focus is on helping companies issue their ESG or sustainability reports by linking their business strategy to ESG issues. And so most companies already have it in their DNA, but they might not know it or may not have communicated to the investors. And so really the need in the market is because, I don't know if you heard, like Larry Fink of BlackRock has been the most, vocal advocate asking companies to increase transparency by reporting ESG issues by using the SASB standards and the Task Force on Climate Related Financial Disclosures framework. And so these are really standards out there on ESG reporting, and they're just all these institutional investors are asking. So primarily, most of the institutional investors are doing that. Anyway, so I think that the need that we're meeting in the market is really to help companies communicate that to investors.
I just want to make a note. Let's put up a link to your, if we post this on the podcast, we'll put the link to your company.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
And let's also, Corey, put the link to Larry Fink's CEO Letter of the Year and the book that was mentioned.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and that was Larry Fink's letter was in January of 2020.
Yeah, he's easy to find. He has a new one every year.
Yeah. So so we started that a couple of years, and it was rough at the beginning, but this year really we've had several calls. We started with a large private equity firm and 27 of their portfolio companies that wanted us to help. And so even during COVID, it has been it's been very encouraging. I've gotten several speaking engagements, and so it's just all of a sudden it's just become like a reality. I didn't expect that to happen, but it's just that the passion for helping others and to really see companies meet that purpose and profits.
Right, that's fantastic. Yeah. And the private equity company you were working with is, if I'm reading this right, it was like $2 billion. It's really huge.
It's pretty big.
Right.
Actually, they've had about $30 billion in investments. They're one of the top 25 private equity firms in the world.
That's fantastic. Wow, great. Today's podcast is brought to you by EDA and Women Execs on Boards Network. EDA, formerly known as Executive Development Associates, provides leadership development for the top 5% of your organization with custom executive programs, C-suite coaching, succession planning, and more. For more information, please visit www.executivedevelopment.com. And Women Execs on Boards is a network of high-level and often high-profile women who have all completed governance education at Harvard Business School and who are working together to collectively advance the state of women on boards and in senior executive positions. We have a new inspirational leadership book about courage, adaptability, resiliency, sense-making, and vulnerability, all shared through the stories and the struggles of 36 of our women leaders. The book is called The Courage to Advance and will be available in North America on September 14th and in the rest of the world in December of 2021. You can pre-order an individual copy at Amazon.com, or for multiple books for your book clubs or other groups, please go to www.thecouragetoadvance.com. What a great experience. And it sounds like you like variety. So if you get bored, you start looking for something new.
Yes.
And so, one thing though, a lot of leaders go through things on their career path that get particularly difficult. And, sometimes they're extremely difficult. Sometimes they're, just a nuisance. But, we want to help leaders to be able to get through some of the more difficult things. And so I was wondering if you would share a little bit of something that happened to you along the path that was really difficult for you.
Well, you have to take a deep breath. I like to think about all those difficult times. Because they really kind of shape you, and that's kind of how it happens. It has happened to me. One of the the most difficult experiences for me was when I was working in one of the large accounting firms. And at the time, they were still starting these women initiatives programs. And so I had just had my first child, my daughter. She was a little bit over a year old. And, but I had already about 10 years of experience, right? And so obviously the next step is partnership, right? And so I wanted to start those conversations. And so I went to talk to my career counseling partner and told him, I think it's probably a time that we start talking about this. And at the time, I had also started to ask for a reduced schedule instead of a full-time, instead of 40, it was about, 2/3 or
It's a much
time, which
right. I know about these firms, so it's not really 40. It's
instead of 60, right? It was like maybe 45.
40, I mean 60.
So anyway, so when I wanted to have that conversation, he basically said, if you're going to continue with this schedule, you're not going to make partner. And so to me it was devastating because I had been really working towards that for a long time. And basically that meant that I had to make a decision between my career and my children, because I really thought that I really needed to take that extra time to be physically with them. Mm-hmm. And so that was very, very disappointing, and it was hard, but so I made my decision. I just said, if I'm going to be working like this and I'm not going to be rewarded for it, then I have to leave. And so I decided to leave and left for a part-time job where I could actually be with my children. So that was difficult.
That is
put
hard.
Me back.
Well, and it's, we know now, I think a lot more than probably even at that time, about how discriminatory that actually is, and that companies should be more flexible. But, this was a while back, and, I think hopefully it's better now.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, most companies are, and there's different opportunities, actually. If you look at in Houston, at least, the top firms, they have female executives on top as managing partners. And so the things have changed a lot.
Yeah, that's good. Now, how did you navigate when it happened? Like, how did you make your decision? Did you have anyone who was particularly helpful for you getting through that?
Yeah, definitely my husband. I mean, I remember when I started in public accounting, one of the best advice I heard was marry well. And, it could be a companion, it can be a friend, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but you have to have that support system. And like I had mentioned, having my husband and having my mom, my parents that helped me so much with my children. And I think it just really kind of my faith, because I've always had, my values and my faith, and really kind of always pray, meditate, and really think it's like, if this is meant for me to be, then so be it. And one of my favorite movies is Forrest Gump. And I remember when his mother is on her deathbed, and he asked what her destiny is. She's like, my destiny was to be your mama. And sometimes we forget that we want to do all these wonderful things. And it's like, I've been blessed with children, and this is the way I know how to do it. And so it was both. It was just kind of keeping in mind my professional goals, and then remembering who I am, where I came from, and kind of what my destiny is. So.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Ali. So tell me about your parents a little bit. You have me curious about them. And you said your mother was also an accountant, so he worked.
Yeah.
And what about your father? What did he do?
My dad actually he was an entrepreneur. He had a print shop, and he had several other little businesses in Mexico. And when we moved to Juarez, because it was my mom's job that moved us there, he then started working also for the business. It was several radio stations, and that's why I was in the environment, in the media.
Right.
And so I actually started. I was a DJ, and I cut commercials for radio. I did voiceovers for radio. And so that's how it started. And then a friend of the family was starting this TV show, and they needed a co-host. And they asked me, I was 18 years old and 17, something like that. And they asked me if I wanted to be, and I was like, sure, I'll do it. So
Of course. Yeah, that's fantastic. What an interesting background and such a supportive family. That it does really help to have a great support system. And for those people who don't have, the nuclear family, you can create the family with friends and people that, become your family. I was funny. I just heard the quote yesterday. It was, what's his name that does the fast movies, the Diesel. What's his name? Vin Diesel.
Okay.
Anyway, in one of those movies, he says, I don't have friends. I just have family.
Yeah.
Meaning the people that are close to him, no matter what, he considers family.
That's true. Because that's what I've done here, right? I'm away from my blood family, and everybody, that I work with, then I made them my family. So
yes, exactly. It helps. It just helps get through things. And especially now during the pandemic, do you get to see your family? Are you able to do Zoom?
No, we, people don't talk about it, but the borders are closed. My parents and my brother, they can't go across the border to El Paso. If they want to go shopping, nobody, you have to be a resident or a U.S. citizen to do that. But anyway, we just do it on Zoom. We are on Zoom.
Can you Zoom? Right.
Yeah,
that's
every
good.
weekend we have our little tequila shots. Don't put this on I'm sorry, you erase that part.
No, it's fun. Leave it. I think we should leave it. So it was Joanna in our network that started having, what do you call them? So,
quarantini. Yeah. So we have our, so we're going to call them Coraquilas or something.
Well, exactly. I like that. That would probably be my preference. Although if I've ever had anything, that I thought, I probably had too many last night, it was always tequila that was involved. So,
so you got to sip it. No, don't shoot it.
Sip it. Exactly. So, do you have advice for people who are, out there in their career? I mean, I heard what you said about marry well, which I think I want to clarify just a little bit. When you talked about marrying well, it's, and I read in the stuff that you sent to me, it was really about marrying someone who's supportive, and not marrying someone wealthy so you don't have to worry about it, right?
No, I did have this is my second marriage, and definitely is just somebody who supports you, who's there to let you be who you want to be, to let you be free. And I think that's how I felt. I have felt free to do what I want. And that's what he's always told me, do whatever you want. I'm here to support you. And, he's been there regardless of what I choose. And so that has been such a big blessing for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yes. And what about advice? Any other advice? Just as you think about people out there working through difficult things and their career, what kinds of career advice do you have, or just professional advice?
Yeah, I would say from a professional perspective, definitely learn from your mistakes and never give up. I think that's what's helped me. But then always leave room for fun. Make a list of the things that make you happy and do them more. Yeah. It's important to have fun and be with the people you like.
Yes, it is. You know what? I love your story because, you're bringing back to this, yes, career's great, but there's so much more to life, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's combining the two. I mean, I've been blessed to at this point in my life to not have to work, and then having the freedom to choose what I want to do and still loving it and waking up and like wanting to work. It's really it's hard to see when you have to make money to make a living too.
That's right.
But at the same time, if that wasn't there, it's important to follow your heart and do what you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ali. Thanks for spending part of your day with us and for sharing your story.
Bonnie, thank you. Thank you for having me. This has been a pleasure.
A special thank you to our listeners for taking time to tune in to this week's Real Life, Real Leaders podcast. We hope today's story inspired you. Check out previous episodes on the podcast to hear from more industry leaders, and check back next week as we speak to another leader and hear his or her great stories of triumphs and messy struggles. If you enjoyed the podcast, please rate, subscribe, and share. I'm Bonnie Hageman, and I look forward to sharing more with you next week.